We start realizing, is it really, did I really need to do that? When I have the Lord, do I really need this anymore? Life starts to change. Our perspective on life starts to change to a spiritual one and less of an earthly one. That's when St. Paul says, set your mind on things above, not on things of the earth. He's saying that by the grace of God throughout your life, gradually. It's support. Support against sin. Support against pain. Support against suffering. Support against a lot of things. Support against sickness and illness. Now, we say support does not always mean healing from the disease. If I have cancer and I take communion, if I'm not healed, it's not because the communion is not working. Because the Lord in His infinite love and wisdom sees that it's better that I fight my cancer and receive a crown in eternal life, and in the process be supported to take it, than to heal me completely from it. That's His love and wisdom. He can heal me, but He sees it's better this way. You may not understand now, but you'll understand later. And finally, it's thanksgiving. That's why Eucharist or Eucharistia, even in Greek, when they say thank you, they say Eucharisto. Eucharistia, Eucharist means thank you. Thanksgiving. We take communion thanking the Lord for giving us Himself. We're thankful. And that teaches us not only to be thankful in the moment of communion, but thankful the life of thanksgiving. And also a term I heard from a friend a couple of days ago that I really like, thanks living. And it's not just thanksgiving in that moment. I give thanks that moment. Or I give thanks on October, the first month in October or November. But I live in thanks. So this is basically in a nutshell what Eucharist is all about. Remember, we don't take communion. I said take, but it's not the accurate term. We receive. We cannot take communion in and of ourselves. None of us can. If the Lord did not choose to allow us this sacrament, then we could not have ever taken it. We receive it from Him out of His love. So we should say, I'm taking communion today. I'm receiving communion today. I'm receiving communion from the hand of Him who loves me, even though I don't deserve it at times. Who loves me more than I can even love myself, as St. John Chrysostom says. So I'm not taking it, I'm receiving it. We want to live this way. Liturgy is the work of the people. That's what a liturgy is. That's why in the Orthodox tradition we don't call it a Mass. We call it a liturgy. Liturgy means work. We all have to work together. The priest, the deacons, the congregation. Our work together makes this liturgy a heavenly one. Working together means everything, from top to bottom, left to right. It means calming my children down when they're making noise in the church, taking them to the common room. It means as a deacon, when I'm told you're standing as an angel, you need to stand as an angel and chant from your heart. It means the congregation, you who are seated, stand. I should stand. Look towards the east. It doesn't mean look to the door, see who just walked in. It means look towards the east, look towards the altar, look towards the Lord. It's a work in progress. And the more each one of us works together in the liturgy, the more it becomes the real meaning of it, heavenly. It's sad when we hear of people who are told by their friends at work or school or whatever, come to my church. You should attend the liturgy. It's beautiful. It's heavenly. And then they come into the church and they're shocked by the people taking communion like they're just standing in the line at IGA or Provigo to buy their groceries. It's shocking to them. They see people talking, hi, how are you during communion? It's shocking when they see there is zero attention the further you head back in the church. The further the rows go, the more people come in later, the more less attention there is in the back. For the people that are coming in, I mean, I've seen people who are told, come to church, the address is this, it's an Orthodox church, this and that. What time do they start? They start at 8 o'clock. Then you come in to start raising of incense, and you see this person you've never met before, sitting all the way at the back at 8 o'clock. Every single pew is empty, except for that one spot that that person has taken when they walked in at 7:45, because they were told church starts at 8. They come in, they see, oh my God, there's nobody at 8. Once a person walked in, I was talking to Starts, I went, hi, hello, welcome to St. Peter and St. Paul. My name is so-and-so, what's your name? Oh, I'm so-and-so, I heard about your church. Does it start at 8? I said, yeah, it's going to start in a few minutes. Oh, I see, because it looks empty. Does anybody come? Yeah, they're going to come. They're just going to be late. So 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, it's not about the minute and the second. Oh, make sure you arrive before the gospel, arrive before this, make it before that. It's not about making it before what and this. When we're invited to someone we love, we do our best to make it on time. I mean, you're invited to a wedding, and the wedding is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You don't get to the wedding at 2:35. You don't get to the wedding at 3. You don't just go to the reception unless you had to, right? God forbid, a funeral. Funeral's at 11 a.m. You don't get to the church at noon. You don't get to the church at 3 p.m. You get to the church before 11 because you know that the coffin of the deceased is arriving early in the hearse at the door, and they're going to be waiting, and they're going to start at the stroke of 11. You know, I attended many funerals in the past few weeks, and there's something that amazes me about funerals. You know how we say, please, during communion, keep the church reverent. Try not to speak. Lower the tone. Even though the service is done, lower the tone. Let's whisper. Keep it at a whisper level to maintain the reverence the church tries to give us throughout the liturgy. And then we remind people regularly. And we ask the deacons, you know what, for a minute or two, keep silence between the songs you're singing, so we can have peace and reverence in the church while people proceed for communion. We have to say this, but you know what? We never have to say this at a funeral. At the end of the funeral, people are waiting, you know, the deceased is being proceeded out of the church to burial, and the family is following, and the deacons are chanting, leading them out in a procession. And then they stand at the door to receive the condolences of the people that came to give their condolences. When that happens, I was standing at the right. This is your right of the church, and just observing the people. Not observing them in a bad, I was like amazed, admiring the reverence you could tell that the people had for the deceased, and that the people had for the mournful. This family is mourning. It's not time to joke around and laugh out loud. You could notice there were no cell phones coming out for people to text or check anything, or to send a message to somebody next to them or across the church. Cell phones were on silent and in the pocket. You don't see them. Nobody's pulling them out. Because they're in reverence for the deceased and for the mournful. There is no cell phones. There is no talking. People are standing, and sometimes it's a long lineup all the way out to say my condolences to the family of the deceased. And people are so quiet. You can hear a pin drop in the church at that moment. Why? Because it's a funeral. Because the deceased and the family's mourning, let's show our care and respect by being quiet. Like that. And yet, at communion, or in the regular service, or at a wedding, it's loud and there are ululations. You know what a ululation is? Zaharit. Very loud in the church. And people are talking very loudly in the church throughout the ceremony. So, well, it's different because that's joyful and that's mournful. Okay, but still a church. Whether it's a funeral, a wedding, a liturgy, a confession, a Bible study, a sermon, it's still a church. It hasn't changed. We don't remove these benches after the service and turn it into a social hall. We have a social hall for that, for socializing. This is not a social hall. It's a church. So it's amazing when you see that attentiveness and the care and the respect that's given at a funeral for the family and the deceased, which is admirable, which is the way it should be. That's why our family brought us up, right? It's the custom. But we ought to have that same reverence all the time. Say, well, the deceased, you know, it's sad. Yes, but the Lord also was deceased for 3 days for us to be able to partake of Him this way. Same thing. Reverence is a continuous thing. Reverence is something that we have in our heart all the time. It's not something that it's not a switch we turn on when necessary. It is always necessary to be reverent. Because the Lord is always there. He's always there. He's a step away. He's a heartbeat away. He's always there. Reverent does not mean boring. Does not mean angry. Does not mean afraid. It means caring, respectful, acknowledging what it is. So in other words, it's an active worship. Liturgy is active, not passive. We're not meant to be just sitting there listening and reading screens and hearing deacons. We need to do our best with them to chant, to pray. That's what makes liturgy a living liturgy. When every one of us lives it together. When each one of us prays together. Like when we say Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. We say it so many times in the liturgy. So many times from the beginning to the end. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. So many times. We say the Lord's Prayer many times. It's not meant to be just, Lord have mercy. We don't say it like that. When someone is screaming, Lord have mercy, what are they saying? Have mercy on our souls. Thank you for your love and mercy. Do not take away your mercy from us. Shouldn't we say it from our heart? Shouldn't we say it deeply? Shouldn't we say it from the bottom of our hearts? I think we should. I really think we should. You know, a friend of mine was attending a service at a church in Egypt. It was Good Friday. You know, at the end of Good Friday, they say, Kyrie eleison, or Lord have mercy, 400 times. 100 to the east, to the west, to the north, and south. And he says they were saying it so loudly in the church, you could feel the church shake. People were screaming. So, well, in Egypt they need to because they're under intense fire, persecution, problems, financial issues, danger, threats. Well, it doesn't need to be persecution only for us to pray that way. You know, let us not pray that way only when there's a huge musibah, as they say in Arabic, or a problem. Let's do it all the time. All the time. So having said all that, I leave you with these words to think about and pray that we live the liturgy. Really live it, and the climax of living it after we've taken the Lord from the altar, like we've said so many times, give Him out. We go out with Him and share Him. I'll leave you with the last story. I'm sorry I took longer than usual. Last story. There's a priest that was talking about how, this is also in Egypt. There was, during Mass, during liturgy, there was a demon-possessed person in the church. Suddenly they hear howling and screaming and yelling at the back of the church. So the priest asked the deacons, what's happening? There's a demon-possessed person in the back. He says, take him outside. Take him outside. The demon can't stand the sacraments. That's why this is happening. So they took the person outside. Now after the service, half an hour later, by the time the priest finished the service and gave the sacraments and gave the announcements and sprinkled the water of blessing and gave out the eulogia, or the blessing at the end of the service, and said hello and goodbye and how are you to everyone in the congregation, it took about maybe 30 minutes or so. So he finally left the church to go to that demon-possessed person. So when he got to the demon-possessed person, the devil inside him, the evil spirit inside him said, get away from me! To the priest, get away from me! Very loudly. So the priest said, why? What is it? He says, you stink! You smell horribly! You smell horrible! The evil spirit telling the priest that. So the priest said, what? So he thought maybe it was the incense, because he was standing raising with the incense. Maybe it was his incense that's making the devil say that. So the devil responded. When the devil's under pressure, people respond. So it's not incense, it's the smell of the blood you took. I can smell the blood. The smell of communion. So it's not the smell of blood like we smell blood. The body and blood that the person took, although they took water, and half an hour later, he says, I can smell the aroma of Christ on you. That's what it means. So you're going out, Christ is with you. He's on you, He's inside you. The smell of Him is there. You may not smell it, you don't need to, but He's there. And His blessing and power is there. His power and His protection is there. And that's our role to share Him by our deeds, our actions, our behaviors, our intentions, our words. So may God grant us to live this. I really pray for this. So that when people walk in and attend the liturgy, they say, yes, there's something here. There's something different. It's not because it's this church. No. It's because it's that Lord. It's not about